Mexico has shut down its border with U.S. due to tariffs taking effect. What if I told you the U.S. Mexico border, one of the busiest in the world, just shut down? I'm talking full stop. No trade, no travel, no cross-border commerce, and all because of tariffs. Yes, tariffs. The situation is escalating fast, and today we're breaking down exactly what happened, why Mexico made this drastic move, and what this means for both countries and the global economy. So how did we get here? It all started when the U.S. government imposed sweeping tariffs on Mexican imports. We're talking up to 30% on key goods like cars, electronics, and agricultural products.
Tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs. A short time from now, we are going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, and we will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley, where it should be and where it belongs.
The move was framed as a way to protect American industries, but for Mexico, this hit like a freight train. Mexico is the U.S.'s second largest trading partner, with over $850 billion in trade flowing across the border every year. A tariff like this doesn't just sting, it threatens Mexico's economy at its core. And Mexico didn't take this lightly. In an unprecedented move, the Mexican government retaliated by completely shutting down border operations, halting both imports and exports to the U.S. Imagine $5 million in goods stuck at the border every minute. Mexico's response might sound extreme, but let's break it down. Reason 1, economic survival. Mexico's economy relies heavily on exports to the U.S. Nearly 80% of its total exports go north. But if those products are suddenly slapped with tariffs, they become way more expensive for American consumers and demand collapses. Shutting down the border cuts the bleeding, stops businesses from hemorrhaging money on goods that can't compete, and buys Mexico time to negotiate from a position of strength. Reason 2, political pressure. The Mexican government also faces pressure at home. Protests erupt across border cities, truck drivers block highways, and businesses fear ruin. By shutting the border, Mexico signals to its people that it's fighting back against what it sees as economic aggression. Reason 3, forcing the U.S. to blink. Here's the strategy. Mexico bets that shutting the border will cause immediate chaos in the U.S. Think about it. 40% of U.S. produce comes from Mexico. Imagine grocery store shelves going empty in days. Automakers in Detroit can't finish building cars because key parts are stuck in Mexican factories. The logic is simple. Make the pain so severe that the U.S. has no choice but to return to the negotiating table. At the border, thousands of trucks stranded. Food rots in containers. Factories shut down. In the U.S., prices for fruits, vegetables, and consumer goods skyrocket. Supply chains crumble. American businesses that rely on Mexican parts, from cars to medical devices, are suddenly paralyzed. In Mexico, the economy contracts, workers lose jobs, and the peso freefalls against the dollar. It's a lose-lose scenario. But that's the point. Mutually assured destruction as a bargaining chip. This border shutdown doesn't just hit North America, it ripples globally. The US and Mexico are vital cogs in global supply chains, especially for electronics and automotive industries. Asian and European markets nosedive as investors panic. Countries like China and Brazil try to fill the trade void, while the EU scrambles to assess the fallout. And let's not forget the geopolitical angle. U.S. rivals could exploit the chaos to strengthen ties with Mexico, maybe with promises of financial aid or favorable trade deals. Suddenly, the U.S. risks losing influence in its own backyard. So what now? Behind closed doors, U.S. and Mexican officials rush to broker a deal. Maybe the U.S. agrees to scale back tariffs in exchange for Mexico reopening key trade routes. Or perhaps Mexico holds firm and we enter a prolonged standoff that reshapes the entire North American trade landscape. Either way, this isn't just about tariffs anymore. It's a high-stakes game of brinkmanship, and the future of millions of people on both sides of the border hangs in the balance. The border is shut, trade has collapsed, and now Mexican soldiers are lining up along the Rio Grande. In a stunning escalation, President Claudia Sheinbaum has deployed thousands of troops to the U.S. Mexico border, warning of a potential American military incursion. U.S. officials deny any invasion plans, but satellite images show a massive buildup of American forces in Texas and Arizona. So, what is really going on? Is this just posturing, or are we watching a full-blown border conflict unfold? Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum ordered the deployment of 50,000 troops to the northern border, the largest military mobilization in Mexico's modern history. In a televised address, she declared, "Mexico will not tolerate violations of its sovereignty. We are ready to defend our nation." The move was met with massive public support across Mexico. After all, historical wounds run deep. Memories of the U.S. invasion of Mexico in the 1840s still linger. For Mexico, this isn't just about tariffs or trade. It's about national pride and protecting their homeland from what they see as U.S. aggression. Meanwhile, across the border, the U.S. military has quietly ramped up operations. Reports of troop movements, increased aerial surveillance, and the deployment of combat units near key border towns fuel speculation that the U.S. is preparing for more than just border security. Officially, the Pentagon claims this is a defensive measure to protect American citizens from cartel violence. But critics argue that the show of force could provoke a direct confrontation with Mexico's military. And let's not ignore the political angle. In a heated election year, some U.S. politicians might see a tough-on-Mexico stance as a vote-winning strategy, even if it risks sparking an all-out conflict. But this situation isn't just about governments. The Mexican drug cartels, powerful, heavily armed, and deeply embedded on both sides of the border, are exploiting the chaos. With border security overwhelmed, cartels ramp up smuggling operations, moving drugs, weapons, and people with ease. And as Mexican troops concentrate near major crossings, cartels spread violence to other areas, further destabilizing the situation. The U.S. could use this surge in violence as a pretext for intervention, claiming that Mexican authorities have lost control, but that would risk turning the border into an active war zone. With both nations on high alert, the world holds its breath. Diplomats scramble for a peaceful resolution, but trust is shattered, and neither side wants to back down first.
So apparently now that the border's closed and we got military on both sides of the border, the cartel's no longer being seen in Tijuana. Now that they can't sneak people over, now that they can't charge people to come across the border, they were also charging a tax to the local businesses in TJ. Cartels are no longer there. People are reporting on the Mexican side that since the border got closed, it's like they've vanished and they don't see them anymore. And they're saying that's happening in most border cities, Mexican border cities, that the cartels are no longer there because the opportunity to bring people over is non-existent. So in a way, Donald Trump closing the border, putting the military there, making her put the military there, it's actually having progress. And they say it's so much safer now in the border towns than it was just a month and a half ago.
There are a few possible outcomes. Negotiated de-escalation. The U.S. and Mexico agree to withdraw troops, lower tariffs, and reopen the border, though tensions remain. Limited border clashes. Small skirmishes erupt, but both sides avoid full-scale war, hoping to contain the violence. Full-blown conflict. A single incident, an accidental shooting, a drone strike gone wrong, could spark an armed conflict, dragging the entire region into turmoil. And if that happens, we could be looking at the most dangerous conflict in North America since the Mexican-American War. So what do you think? Is this just political theater, or are we on the verge of something far more dangerous? Could this crisis be diffused, or is war inevitable? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next part of this evolving story. I'll see you in the next video.